Think about this. Your business is making $500,000 a year and you're still broke. Sounds impossible? It's actually not. And our guest today, Bradford Irons, he actually sees it all the time. Brad is a business and personal finance coach, and he'll show you why you need two parts of your total vision for success. One for your business and one for your life. And then how to make sure they don't destroy each other.
For me, I see a lot of people who have dreams. They have something they want to do, something that they've thought about for a long time. So it's really helping them understand how to take the vision they have that they want to get to at the end of the day. You don't want to build a business that you can't be proud of and that doesn't align with who you are. Do I want to be working 80 hours a week? What do I want to build this into that fits my personal life? If I want to be here next to my family and next to our kids want to be in this area, like I need to build a business that supports that. You have to have a vision for both. Even on the personal finance side, I coach several people making $500,000 net income, bringing it home. Still broke because, I didn't separate business and personal bank accounts. I think a lot of times people don't jump because the fear of failure. Yeah, you have a family, but that doesn't mean you have to wait 10 years. Prepare for it and make the jump. Your first business might not work. Your first plan might not work, but that doesn't mean you failed at it. It means you just need to pivot. You need to know sales and business, right? Like when you're starting a business, that's one area where I didn't have that.
Brad's about to walk you through the exact framework of how to build a business and the life intentionally without choosing between them. The full conversation is coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Vision into value and business into blessing. That doesn't sound like just a tagline. It sounds like something that comes from the heart. Talk to us about what that really means in today's world.
For me, I see a lot of people who have dreams. They have something they want to do, something that they've thought about for a long time, but either they haven't taken the jump, or they have a business, they've taken the jump, but it's not really moving in the direction that they've envisioned. So it's really helping them understand how to take the vision they have that they want to get to at the end of the day and using that to not only get them to that point, but also add value and create value for others as well, right? And then, of course, the business and the blessing, right? You're taking that business and you're blessing others with it. So it's not just for us. It's not just to build our own empire, but you want to make an impact on the community and the people around you as well. And so that's kind of where that comes from. It's partially faith in terms of the blessing piece. I do focus on a lot of Christian entrepreneurs, so really helping them bless others with what they have in their business.
It's a principle, though, that goes for everyone.
Definitely. And I don't just coach Christians, but I do find that your faith and your values are very important when building your business, whether you're a Christian or not.
Let's explore that a little bit more. In a world of profits, growing your revenue, ROI, especially if you have investors that have put a significant amount of money into your business, how do you see that as a strategic advantage?
It's interesting because I've heard debates on this. Should we just focus solely on shareholder value, or is the values piece of it and how you build your business just as important? I do think when you're building a business, especially for small business owners, you don't want to build a business that you can't be proud of and that doesn't align with who you are. So I think you can just go for the financial side of it, but you don't want to gain the world and lose your soul, as the scripture goes. So it's very important to build something that is aligned with your values and aligned with who you are. And so I try to help people do that.
For our audience, help them understand, what exactly do you do today? Who you are, your company, and that value that you bring to who?
Yeah. So I'm owner of Mortimer Consulting. It's a coaching and consulting company focused on helping small business owners, typically Christian entrepreneurs who have between 10 and 50 employees, not only scale their business, but do it in a way that aligns with their values and their family, and also their finances as well. A lot of business owners I deal with struggle with the finance, and it's like their business is doing well, but then their personal finances are struggling. Well, what's the point of that? I mean, you're doing this for financial wealth for yourself. So that's who I mainly work with. And again, not only Christian entrepreneurs, but just those who are, that's the focus, but I work with those who are just trying to grow their business and have that fit inside their life in a proper way.
So what's intriguing about what you just said? There's a reality of being an entrepreneur. It's usually a little bit more
it's not what you see on YouTube.
Challenging than you thought it was, right?
It's not what's on TV.
Things like that.
Yeah.
So You just mentioned something that, because the biggest fear is typically, well, I don't want my business to fail. I want it to do well. I want it to be profitable. You actually just spoke to businesses where they are being profitable, the businesses, but personally, they're not, the owner's not benefiting. The entrepreneur's not benefiting from that.
Yeah. See that quite a bit.
What is the biggest difference between that entrepreneur who is benefiting and the one that's not?
So I think you need a vision not only for your business, but your personal life. And a lot of times it's like we start a business. And so as entrepreneurs, it's like we put all our working 80 hours a week, we're going after the business, and it can help it grow. But then our personal life is kind of taking a back burner. So we're not really thinking about, at the end of the day, do I want to be working 80 hours a week? What do I want to build this into that fits my personal life? Do I still want to be, am I the type of person who doesn't mind just working 24 hours a day? Or do I want to mainly focus on, hey, my kids? And do I want to have my business support that and the lifestyle, like spending time with family? And, do I want to travel more? And neither of them are wrong necessarily. If you want to just grind and build the biggest business you can, that's awesome. But then if you're married with kids, that piece is very important as well. It's important to make sure you know what your vision is at the end of the day. And if you don't have that vision for your personal life, it's hard for your business to support that. So another example is, I'm not going to let my business make me move to wherever state or location that I have to move it.
Right.
My personal life, if I want to be here next to my family and next to our kids want to be in this area, like I need to build a business that supports that. You have to have a vision for both your business and your personal finances. It has to fit together.
That's an interesting and a really good thing to kind of bring to the forefront.
Yeah.
Because we've been taught to establish that business, that vision.
Yeah.
Hey, what's your vision? What's your mission? Then, what's your branding, your positioning?
Right.
And then, all the things, the sales, revenue, you build your business. And the assumption is the personal part will take care of itself. Are you suggesting that you need to be as structured around the personal component of it? Right? Because do you see that in a lot of your entrepreneurs where it's that personal plan matches it in terms of?
Do I see it?
Intentionality, deliberateness?
No, I don't see it. And so I think I would like to see it more, because I do see a lot of times where, you'll focus on your business and then you'll end up divorced because your family got second seat, right? So I do think I don't see it as much as I would like, right? Even on the personal finance side, I coach several people doing great in business, making $500,000 net income, bringing it home. Still broke because, I didn't separate business and personal bank accounts. I'm mixing money, or I'm not making sure taxes are taken out. So there's a whole lot of different reasons why, they're focused on the business, but they're letting, either the personal finances or the personal relationships kind of go to the wayside. I see that a lot, so that's why I focus on it.
So we talked about having that intentional personal plan that mirrors your intentional business plan.
Right.
And obviously having a tight strategy. And I'm going to take what you just laid out and take it all the way through.
Yeah. Okay.
In the same way they'd have you as a coach. And now I'm starting to see why your business model is very intentional. As I'm looking through, whether it's your website or reading all the posts, there is that business consulting. You even differentiate it. Your business consulting, but then you have a personal coaching alongside it. You think they actually should completely align?
Yeah, I do. I'll do my content. I'll do business content. Then on Tuesdays, I'll do faith content. I'll mix in family and how that fits into your business. I think they have to be aligned. Even without the faith aspect, the values is very important. A lot of companies will have a mission, they'll have a vision. They haven't established the values, or they haven't integrated it in the business. It's just kind of sits on the wall. But it's really important for driving culture. It really impacts who you hire, what opportunities you go after. I see that more in small businesses. Most big businesses, it's harder to implement, but they kind of all have kind of values.
Yeah. I think about, if you take this all the way through, right? So to your point, it's on paper. You got to get it there first. You got to put the plan down. And then there's some principles around execution. I know one of your videos, you talk about monitoring, right? And accountability and tracking, making sure you're hitting the right milestones.
Yeah.
And you talk about looking at your lead metrics as well as your lag metrics, right? So what are those key leverage points within the organization, within your plan, that if you focus on them, that you have control over them, you focus on them, they then get you the lags. And so as I think about what you're saying, that needs to be on both sides, your personal and business, if you're going to execute on them. So once, you got to get it down.
Yeah.
But then two, you have to be very deliberate about executing on both sides of it, of that equation. I like the way you're thinking about it. It's almost forcing me to think about it as well. I talk all the time about executing on a business plan. And, you can't just have a plan. You've got to have an execution plan. What's your execution plan? Here are the principles of it. It applies to both sides of it. So just kind of bringing it home for myself. There's a number of folks that are listening right now. They don't have a business, but the same principles apply. As they're thinking about starting a business, getting a franchise, consulting, just based on this conversation you just had about the kind of planning, and what would you say to them are the top 2 or 3 keys that they have to have as they look to start?
You have to believe that you can do it. I think a lot of times people don't jump because they, the fear of failure, the fear of, maybe just not knowing what you don't know, and they're just kind of unsure that they're going to make it. So I think going to your point, like that business plan is very important, making sure it's laid out, but also preparing yourself. I have a family. I have 4 kids, and many people, have a career and they do want to start their own thing, but they also have a family. They have responsibilities. They can't just go, it sounds good. Hey, just go quit my job and start a business, but you have to prepare for that when you have a family. So you have to really think about that. And so you should, one, understand that you can do it, believe you can do it. And don't wait. Yeah, you have a family, but that doesn't mean you have to wait 10 years. Prepare for it and make the jump. It's very important that you really understand what value you can bring, understand what you're good at, and if there's a market for what you have. So you can like something, but that doesn't mean you're going to make money at it. So you need something of value to people, something that you can sustain because you like doing it, you're good at it. And so I think that's very important. But then, just making a plan to exit. So for us, I have that pretty good career. I was an electrical engineer for 8 years. And I went and got my MBA and went into product. So I was a product manager for a large Fortune 500 company. I was in operations. Then I went back into product as a senior product manager, making good money, great money, good companies. Honestly, people hate their organizations. I've never really hated mine. I've liked every company that I've worked with. I think part of that is I have the ability, I think, to find the good or the way I add value in any organization I go to. Right. But for us, the last company I worked for, we saw that it was time to jump. And when I was hired there, we saw the books and we understood that it's probably going to be layoffs. So we had about 8 months. I'm like, it's going to come. And so I talked to my wife and we had just done the numbers. We realized we were very close to Coast Fire. If you're familiar with the fire community, we were very close to Coast Fire. Our retirement was there. We were like, okay, if we get laid off, there's no better time than now to start, right? Even though everything wasn't necessarily set, but we made the decision, we prayed about it, and we said, hey, we're not going back into corporate. We're going to start our business. We felt like that's where God was calling us. And so we made a plan on what we were going to do, how much money we needed, saved up, and we made that jump. So for me, it's making sure you have the plan, get a plan ready, and make sure you have something of value that you can offer. So,
and then if we continue with your story for a little bit, because I think it ties into that plan, and we're going to talk a little bit more about execution, things you've seen, is things don't always go according to plan.
No, at all.
So my guess is you've seen that in some customers, but also experienced it yourself.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about it. I mean, it's not you ride off into the sunset with beautiful music. There's still ups and downs, yes?
Yeah, always. And it's interesting because your first business might not work. Your first plan might not work, but that doesn't mean you failed at it. It means you just need to pivot. You need to move in maybe a different direction, but you're always going to have growing pains. It's never going to go like you think it's supposed to go. There's always going to be things that you need to learn. But I think as long as you're focused on moving towards that vision, you're going to get those things. So sales was one thing, one area. You need to know sales in business, right? Like when you're starting a business, that's one area where I didn't have that. I never worked in sales, mainly because I didn't want to move away from my family. I didn't want to be on the road all the time. And so that's one area I had to really dive into and figure out, get some training, get some coaching on that. So I have a coach. I'm a coach, but I have a coach. I think coaches should have coaches, quite honestly.
I agree.
But I have a coach in that area that I feel like I need some support in. But there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be struggles because I didn't spend a career in sales. So that's one piece where I'm getting help with. And hey, I might fall down. At the end of the day, if I keep going and I'm making progress and it's aligned with my vision, I'm going to get there.
I think what you're speaking to is being principle-based.
Yeah.
And so even with regards to the path, the initial business plan might not work according to plan.
Yeah.
I was watching a Kobe video the other day. He was being interviewed and he was saying, what is failure? He doesn't fail. It's an opportunity to grow. So you start on a path, and if it's grounded, as you've been talking about, around principles, you're tracking with principles.
Yeah.
That pivot you're talking about is not starting over. It's adjusting.
Right.
Course correcting. And what I've found is that you might start out on a path, it might not be working, but because everything else is strong, that plan, personal, business, that path you're taking, the way you're doing it, typically that next right thing to do is right next to it.
Yeah.
Because you've been so grounded. And so if you're monitoring, then you adjust.
Yeah.
And go through. That's one of the, I think.
And an example of this is
success,
just, is like, when you're starting your business, it's like, okay, who's my ideal client? Who's my avatar?
Right.
And you might go after that, and it's like, oh, it's not clicking how it's supposed to. They're not seeing the value in this offer. But randomly, this other, niche audience is really attracted to it. So it's like, okay, is it aligned with my values? Is it aligned with, how I want to operate in my faith? And I might have to change that kind of pivot to, that new audience, right? If I see the value is higher there. So that's just an example of what I see where, hey, you might have to make that little pivot. It still doesn't affect who you are or your values or how you run your business, but I can serve this audience in a better way and they see more value in it. That's one that's quite honestly very common is that target market.
Yeah.
So
the second thing you touched on was the whole aspect of selling.
Yeah.
And I have so many friends or colleagues, and just like you just said, where I don't do the sales thing.
Yeah.
I haven't done the sales thing. And I think a part of that is the image of what selling is. And a lot of times that original concept you have of it, it's almost like eating. If your first pizza was in New York, then nobody else's pizza can taste like, because that's your first image of it, right? As much as we've been around, we've had pizza, even in Italy, but that spot in New York is the best. I think selling suffers from that as well. Yeah. And most of us see either used car salesmen or somebody pitching something back when we're growing up on TV. And what's interesting to me is that, especially in today's economy, selling to me is ultimately about influence, which is at the core, the same core value that leadership is. And so whereas, with all the information that's out there, what I've found is people don't want to be sold.
Yeah.
By the time, someone's going to make a decision, they've researched 80% of it, but 30% is still a far way to go. And 70 back in school was a low C. I think what comes from you and a lot of folks that you can build on is the fact that people follow good leadership. And so if you ground yourself and understand that in any situation, you're the expert and the leader, and then following the principles of, it's not just about the position power of being an expert, it's also listening and building that trust.
Yeah.
And then helping someone do better or get results that they didn't get without you.
Right.
Which is ultimately what you're looking for from a leadership standpoint and from a selling standpoint.
Yeah.
And so I've always believed that the characteristics of a quote unquote good salesperson is actually the characteristics of a great leader.
Of a good leader. Yeah.
And so if you really focus in on, and you started with it, that value part of it, that blessing part of it, how do I genuinely help you, bring you the insights that you need to get from where you are to ultimately that objective, that payoff you're looking for?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I've found that we don't even, you're a customer, you don't really know what you really, really want. And if someone can genuinely lock into where you're trying to go and even help you define it, you sit back and go, that's it. That's quote unquote selling. But is it? It's kind of good leadership principles.
Yeah. You said something funny because you talked about car salesmen. And it's funny, people have this idea in their head that it's so terrible. The studies show that people actually have good experiences with their car sales.
Oh, yeah. I mean, car sales on TV.
But I'm saying the idea that sales is slimy and
exactly.
Doesn't
the reality of it
match what the reality is.
Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of people that I coach, they really don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they need, right? So if I'm trying to grow my business and it's not working, I might not know what area I need help in. So you need someone to show you, this is the gap. This is the connection that needs to be made. That's not sales. That's just, I mean, it's sales, but it's like, it's just helping you understand.
That's the point. That's the point. Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's just helping you understand how to get to your next level. For me, like there's many times where like, you might not need coaching. Okay. I'm not going to just sell you on something you don't need. Right. So I think that's where most of the people I know, it's really just trying to help you understand and connect you to that offer.
I think ultimately too, and you said it about coaches needing coaching, if you truly want to grow, there are mindsets that you touched on earlier that can hold you back. People talk about imposter syndrome and a number of different things that can hold you back. But in terms of pushing you forward, that growth mindset, continuous growth mindset, that knowledge that wherever I am, I can get better, I think is what screams, I need a coach. No matter how well things are going, you know, I need someone like you that I trust.
Yeah.
You get back to that trust, and, you know, that trust that can help see that next step, that next level I need to get to. So I actually think we all need coaching all the time. You know,
I agree.
You know, if you truly want to maximize that blessing or that value your business is bringing to your customers, it's continuous.
And I think I saw early on I was deficient and I needed help. I'm always learning and trying to grow and get better because I know where I started from.
Yes.
And that's very key. Like as a leader, you have to be growing, you have to be developing, because you set the tone for your organization. And if you're not growing, that might impact the growth of your business as well.
You know, I want to get into a little bit more. It's what they call cash flow.
Yeah.
You may have a business that's growing, the value is growing, but day to day, your spending power is either where it's always been or diminishing because of inflation. And yeah, that must be a very frustrating place for business owners to be.
Yeah, cash flow issues. Yeah, especially in trades businesses a lot of times, because it's mainly a lot of times an issue with how they invoice, and a lot of the times you're spending a lot of money on materials. It's more of a business model a lot of times I see on the cash flow side, when they collect, when they invoice, how quickly they bring the cash into the business as opposed to spending on the jobs that they have. So I see that quite a bit on the trades businesses like electricians and contractors. And I think that's important because you need the cash. And for me, I'm not a big debt guy. I like to grow at the speed of cash, as they say. So I think the cash flow is very important to protect that.
I think you're laying out to me a lot of it has to do with the systems they have in place or don't have in place.
Yeah. And it's really, so a lot of issue is that they're working in the business, not on the business, right? And if they spent more time working on the business, putting in the systems in place, putting in the right processes, a lot of those issues would be resolved.
Okay.
But a lot of times I'm so focused on the next job and getting that done, which is good to focus on helping your customers, but you have to focus on the business and how it's structured.
So let me take it across my imaginary bridge to the personal side as well.
Yeah.
Right, so you got your business, there's cash flow issues within the business, but let's say you mend those. There's sometimes cash flow issues on the personal side. Your family or spouse is kind of looking at you like, hey, it's great that everybody's lauding the business. I see it growing and expanding, but we don't have money to do X, Y, or Z like we'd like to.
Right.
What's going on the personal side?
Yeah, so this is common with businesses because most businesses, especially small businesses, that fluctuating revenue, fluctuating income. So their check might be $30,000 one month and then nothing the next month. So a lot of people struggle. And that's one of the reasons I address the personal finances too, because it's correlated. Their business impacts if they're bringing home $30,000 one month, well, they have to figure out how to even that out and prepare for that. Right? It's very simple when people really start looking at it and paying attention to it, just making sure you have the right bank accounts, and the Hill and Valley Fund is what we call it, to make sure you can even out your income and stabilize your finances so that you don't, hey, this month I'm not going to have any money for food. No, as long as we have the right process in place, that should be taken care of. So it's very small tweaks.
The top couple things that there's someone who's in business or thinking about it need to have in place on that personal side. Those tweaks, they might be tweaks, but it could solve a major problem they're having now or one they're setting themselves up for.
Yeah, so on the personal finance side, it's one, you need an emergency fund. You need a Hill and Valley Fund. So Hill and Valley Fund, basically, if anyone who's not familiar with it, it's when you have a good month, you bank some of that money into your Hill and Valley Fund so that when you have a bad month, you can
Okay.
pull it out and even out your income. So your
That makes sense.
budget basically stays the same, and you're not scrambling every other month to figure out how you're going to pay the bills, right? So having that's very important. But then also, honestly, having a money plan is always important. We spend so much on, especially when you make a lot of money. I see $5,000-$6,000 on food, $7,000 on food. I'm like, how do you eat that much?
Well, that's just for eggs, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting how much people spend on
but
food.
you're right. It's because I don't think you swipe your debit card.
Yeah, you just swipe.
And you're not paying attention. You know,
Yeah.
you stop in today, you stop in tomorrow. Oh, I forgot something. Make another run.
Yeah,
For every time you swipe is $100. After a while, if you stop in
right.
25 days.
Yeah, but I think
gonna add
the
up.
key for
Mhm.
entrepreneurs
Yes.
is you do want your time and your focus on the right things. So you don't want to spend a lot of time managing your personal finances, right? Because you want that time spent on your family and the money makers, like bringing money in, right? So for me, I help my clients really put in the systems in place so that money's automatically going to where it needs to go. It's automatically being invested to where it needs to be invested. It's, the budget's set, and, the fluctuating income isn't impacting you. And, it's a streamlined process. So like, I don't really spend more than like 30 minutes a month on our finances, right? It's really systematized and automated. And so that gives you the ability to focus on the business more, I think.
Okay, so a lot of the audience, there are people in the audience right now, the place where they are is late career. For the most part, they've been YouTube employees their entire lives. Very good careers, they've done all the right things. But now, as you look out, you're recognizing a few things. One is a lot of the planning and the place you're supposed to be in terms of finances or mentally what you're prepared to do is not exactly the way it's playing out, right?
Yeah.
There's still this fear, I've got a great nest egg, but can it maintain my lifestyle? We're living longer. And then the second part of it is there's still a lot of value to offer. So there are a number of us who are looking for, what do I do now? Some are looking into being consultants, coaches, and then some are looking into their own businesses, their own franchises, whether it's partnerships. There's just a number of different choices that are out there.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's a new world. You work with a lot of entrepreneurs. If you're speaking to that one person out there who's at that crossroads and looking to make that change, what mindset would you recommend? Or what are some of the things you'd recommend that they do in terms of preparing themselves for that next chapter?
Yeah, so mindset-wise.
Yeah, let's start with mindset.
Yeah, this is one thing I struggled with when I was younger, because I always had like a low self-esteem. And mainly because Georgia Tech kicked my butt in undergrad. And high school, I struggled with my first high school too. It was kind of a tech magnet school. So they really kicked my butt. And so I thought something was off with my brain. I wasn't as smart as I thought I was. I've always thought growing up that if I tried my hardest, I would be successful. And I've never been the person in school like to party and to go out and not, like, I was always focusing on my schoolwork, and it just didn't happen. I would tutor someone else. They'd go make an A on the test and I'd get a C. I'm like, literally, how does this happen? Right. So for me, my self-esteem was kind of hit early. So it took a long time to rebuild that. When I talk about imposter syndrome and believing in yourself, one of my favorite scriptures is, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, right? Philippians 4:13. And I kind of say that over and over again when I'm doubting that I can do something, because I know so many business owners who are growing up with them is like, they got $1 million business. They're making $5 million, them. So it's like, but they just jumped, and they even though they didn't know everything, they pursued something and they were confident and they stuck to it. So for me, it's like, man, there's so many opportunities. I'm not a genius. I'm not an Elon Musk or, Jeff Bezos, but that doesn't mean I can't do a successful business. And so for me, just having that confidence that you can do it is very important. But then also, like, if not now, when? You're gonna look up in 15, 20 years and be like, man, I should have started this business. I was making great income. You're kind of trapped by the money. So if I go start this thing, then I'm gonna lose. The opportunity cost is very high when you have a high income. So that was a big issue for us. We're gonna lose all this money by starting this business, because businesses take a while to grow, right? But again, it comes back to, what do I want? At the end of the day, what do I see for myself? I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've always knew that I was going to do something for myself. If not now, when? And for us, that was a perfect opportunity. We came across that perfect opportunity and we jumped. Even though we didn't know everything, even though there's still gaps, things I need to learn, I know enough to move.
Part of it is listening to folks who took that risk, right? Went and did something. And then you hear the rumblings in the background. Can you believe it? He had that good job. He left his good job talking about he's going to go do this. Now look at him, right?
Families.
Right. So there's that risk. And you're taking care and everyone's saying they're supporting you, but there's this little thing in your head going, if I don't do the things I always, part of the, so imposter syndrome is one you mentioned. Then there's this other thing where I've always provided. I've always made prudent decisions, right? And now for me to possibly do the wrong thing and have everybody look at it. So there's an aspect of that as well.
Yeah.
Earlier we were talking too about even a lot of folks who are faith-based.
Yeah.
And we talked about the extension of that where there's this confusion about the quote unquote love of money or wealth, and we don't realize how much that's buried and the effects that can have on us.
Yeah.
You want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I just think it's wrong. I mean, again, the common quote, it's not money, it's the love of money is the root of all evil. It's when I put money above everything else.
That's it.
Right.
I think that's the purpose.
Yeah.
Even the love itself is not the problem. It's where you prioritize
Yes,
it.
it's the priority. When I think when you love money that much, then you tend to put it over other things.
Yes.
So I think that's the connection.
The things that make money, for example, right? Loving the benefits of it. And then if you, to your point about prioritizing it, having a lot of resources to target in the right places is a good thing.
Yeah, it's very hard to help people when you're broke. And when you have money, when you have a successful business, you're making money, you can point the resources and the money in a direction that is beneficial to other people, beneficial to your family, beneficial to, your own vision. Like, I'm not going to take my own aspirations out of it. And I still have some stuff I want to do for my life too. So I think all the way around, I think, first of all, you want good people to have it, because the good people are the ones who want to share the money. They want to invest. They want to, pass it on to the next generation. They want to impact their community in a positive way. So money, a lot of people say, is amplifies who you are, right? I've heard that from like Dave Ramsey, Alex Hormozy. I agree with that completely. And so, like, if you're someone who is a person of faith, or you're just, you're a decent person, it's good that you're the one controlling the the finances.
And what are your thoughts on, having like really good mentors around you and really good coach in general?
If I could do it over, this is something I'd focus on more, because I didn't have a lot of mentors around me early on. There were periods where I was looking for them and I never kind of didn't really find the right fit. But I would have focused on that more. Now, having multiple coaches, masterminds that I'm in a great group of business owners. It's a mastermind that we have. We're pouring into each other. We're all have the same faith, all business owners kind of moving towards the same goals. And it's like, man, having that is very important. Not only your team, because they can mentor you in certain areas, but then you also have your coaches that are mentoring you as well. So I think those are all important. But then also, I do think you can be mentored by who you listen to online. So like Miles Monroe, I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I've seen him.
He's a big one for me. Dave Ramsey is another one. On the financial side, I'm a Ramsey preferred coach, so I work with him as well. He's always been a mentor for me. I don't speak with him directly, but
I understand.
Right, but I also think that's important.
Today's world, that's very possible.
It's very. I learned so much from them, and I gained so much from just the people I listen to as well. So I do think you need the in-person that you can ask questions, you can bounce ideas off of. They can guide you in the right direction. So I would say if I could start again, I would focus on getting a mentor earlier, because then they can help you avoid some of the pitfalls you might have to experience on your own otherwise. I definitely think it's better to learn from other people's mistakes and guidance from others than making your own mistakes. Now, if you have to make your own mistakes, that's part of it.
But you don't want to make them all.
Yeah. If I could avoid it by learning from someone else, then I think that's a better way to learn.
And the final land is, what about coaching? Why is it so vitally important to have a coach?
You got to know where your blind spots are. And I think a lot of times as business owners, we might have, it might be a long career and we haven't, our degrees and we know business. But man, there's so many things that I know, but I've forgotten or I'm not thinking about. And it's not so much the knowledge, it's someone to remind you of things that you already know. It's someone to hold you accountable. The accountability piece is big because you need someone to kick you in the butt sometimes. Okay, this is what you said you were going to do. This is what you said you were moving towards and what your vision is. How does this align with that? And sometimes you need that second voice to really keep you on track, hold you accountable. And again, remind you of things that you you missed or you forgot about.
And then what's the payoff
What's the payoff?
for that person? What have you said?
I talked about sales coaching. I'm like, my close rate is much higher. That's a direct financial gain. If I know how to speak to people, I can ask the right questions. I think that's very beneficial when it comes to sales, right? So that's how, just in my own personal life, like the number of clients I'm able to bring on because I've got that coaching is very important, right?
Tell me one of the biggest payoffs that you've seen.
A client that I was working with for 3 months. So we only needed 3 months. And he quickly identified over $500,000 that he was losing. And it's very small tweaks. And it wasn't anything that, again, it's kind of like, it wasn't, if he would have sat down and really thought about this and really looked at the numbers, he might have seen it. But he needed someone to come in and really have a second eye on his finances and his business to see, okay, man, I knew that. I wasn't thinking about it, right? And so he was able to quickly implement that. And, you know, $500,000 is not small. His business is $3 million.
Yeah.
But that's a quick one that we identified very quickly.
Small for anybody.
Yeah.
That's the blessing.
Yeah.
That's the part of the blessing. And it's so interesting when in a coaching situation, partially because you are outside of it, you don't have the emotion.
Yeah.
How you can step into that situation. I know you see it. I don't know if you're a Sherlock Holmes fan, but they always show like the visual of him putting everything together. And it's like you walk in and you see these things that need to go together and you kind of go, hey, or help them see, hey, if you put these things together, and then the realization, like in this case of $500,000, I think is definitely a part of that blessing that you started with.
And one thing I'd want to add is that a lot of people who are advanced in their career, they've been doing it for a long time, they're looking for someone who is, and if you can find it, it's great, someone who's above them, who has already built what they're trying to build. But a lot of times it's very hard to find that. You can also find someone in a particular area that you might not be as strong in. So for example, like I talked about sales, that's one area that I needed help with. That doesn't mean, that person who's helping with sales isn't running a bigger business.
And that's the key. Yeah.
Right.
So in this area.
In that area, they're ahead of me. And so I think a lot of times if you can find that one person that kind of it's everything, they're great.
That is rare.
But it's very hard. I know several entrepreneurs who are trying to find that one person. I'm like, well, how about we focus on the areas where you need support?
I even help you find that other person you need, I think.
So I think that's helpful. And then also to add on the personal side too, going back to that, counseling isn't bad. A lot of the times, you have these high figure entrepreneurs and then they're struggling with their personal life because they're fighting over money.
Yeah, I think that's very undervalued and underappreciated.
Yeah.
In that area still, in terms of personal. And that's the constant connect that you bring that I really love about how you do what you do.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Never separating the fact that the whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I separated it from a teaching standpoint, but to bring it back together and to treat them both as vitally important, both that you've got to be intentional and very deliberate about setting up that strategy, that plan, executing on it. And in the same way we need that business coach and mentors, we also need it on the personal side.
Yeah.